Well, after a dozen years in Detroit, both quarterback Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams decided to take a chance on each other, and the result was a Super Bowl title. Last season, Stafford threw for the league's third most passing yards, the second most touchdowns, and tied his own career high for single-season completion percentage. Only Justin Herbert and Tom Brady had more passing yards. That's why heading into 2022, Stafford is considered to be among the top-tier players at his position in a new list of franchise quarterbacks compiled by our Jason La Canfora. You can view the list and analysis over on CBSSports.com, but here's what the top tier looks like. Stafford in a tier that includes Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes, Brady, Green Bay's Aaron Rodgers, Baltimore's Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen's in there from Buffalo, Denver's Russell Wilson, and Cincinnati's Joe Burrow. Let's now welcome in JLC to discuss his franchise quarterback tiers, and let's go through these one by one, JLC. We just saw Tier 1. These are your franchise quarterbacks, the best of the best, the top guns. Who stands out on this list for you in the top tier?
Well, I'll probably catch some flack, I guess, perhaps, for Matthew Stafford being there. I flirted with putting him in the list at this tier many years past. He's usually been a rung below. Some people would say that's overinflated, or, you know, the numbers don't tell the real story, and where are the wins with a Z. Look, Detroit as a place where many a career has gone to languish or never get started or die. And I expected he and Sean McVay to make beautiful music together, and they did. And to me, these are quarterbacks who make teams better, make receiver rooms better, make offenses better, guys who are going to be worthy year in and year out of MVP consideration. And, you know, I don't think it's ever usually more than a quarter of the league, 8-ish quarterbacks. We are in a golden generation now, however, with guys like Brady and Aaron Rodgers, not just hanging on, but performing at MVP levels deeper into their lives than anyone could have expected. At the same time, we've got this wave coming up with Burrow and Herbert.
Yeah, if Tier 1 has ballooned, let's go to Tier 2. Yeah. That's where the aforementioned Matthew Stafford was last year. But JLC, it's a short list this year.
Yeah, it is. You know, I feel like I've been a little too generous with this in the past. Guys who are sort of that next tier, who you can win a lot of games with, who you can be a competitive team with, and they might just put you over the top. Matt Ryan is not the same guy as he was when he was competing for an MVP award with Kyle Shanahan. However, this will be the best cast around him in a long time. That's a Colts team that's playing in a really weak division. Yes, the AFC as a whole is better, but I just think Matt Ryan is that sort of next tier where I don't think you can expect him to be an MVP, but if he just does what he's been doing, given where he is, and that's a team that has a very good chance to, in my estimation, win that division and maybe do some damage in the postseason with the way they can run the ball. I look at Matt Ryan just one niche below.
You know what I love about this list, JLC, is the fact that you've put last year's list to compare.
Yeah, I always do that. Yeah, so you can really just throw darts at me. I make it easy for you. Yeah.
So you hold yourself accountable. I like that. So you've got Tier 1 and Tier 2. Let's go to Tier 3, which is for the rising stars. Producer Tully, I think you're going to bring this in here. This was an interesting one because, I mean, JLC, what? There's no rising stars in the league this year?
Well, I'm not ready to crown anybody, you know. This is where a Burrow or a Herbert would have found themselves maybe a couple years ago. Trevor Lawrence, and I guess we'll get to him more in depth later, like, that was a complete wash last year. You know, Zach Wilson showed some good things, also showed some not so good things. I think the Jets are better, but I'm not ready to crown him. Kyler Murray, for 3 years, you've kind of been waiting, right, for him to take that next step, and I like the rookie season, but has he really built on it? Has that offense really evolved? Has he taken that franchise anywhere of note? Do they get better as the season goes along, or do they get worse? So, yeah, years past, he would have been there, but no. And again, some of these franchises have just been so inept at this position in cultivating and developing talent that, yes, I think over time, Lawrence and maybe even a Kenny Pickett, who just obviously entered the league, and some of these kids from recent draft classes will show their stuff. But at this point, I think more like the jury is out, and we'll get to that, I'm sure, in a minute.
I mean, you said, you're being a little harder this year, so, it's
I am.
It's tougher. So Let's go to tier 4, loaded with guys who you can win with. You tag this tier as you can make the playoffs with these guys in a decent supporting cast. Who stands out here?
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the same dudes who've been in this category in years past. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, and Tua are newer additions to this group. And no, Tua did not make the playoffs last year, but I believe that Tua is a quarterback who can keep you in contention with the right pieces around him. And my goodness, have the Dolphins upgraded. Jameis Winston, that offense was on a roll before he got injured. The fact he's coming off of a surgery isn't ideal, but I'm pretty bullish on the Saints. And these other guys, the Derek Carrs, the Kirk Cousins of the world, they've been living in this tier for quite some time now. They continue to get contract extensions that aren't up there with the big boys, but certainly it's more than the lower class of NFL quarterback. And again, are those playoff teams, the Vikings and the Raiders respectively? I think they probably are. Are they going to really challenge for a Super Bowl? Or one of the guys from that list going to put a team on his back in January and take it to the promised land? No. You know, Dak Prescott, he's been a young, future rising star in the past, but is that supporting cast better now? Is that an ascending Dallas offense? Or was last year their best chance to really do something of note? And we all saw, if you watched Cowboys football last year, it wasn't particularly pretty.
All right, let's take a look at tier number 5 and see how that one stacks up. And none. Okay, so let's move on to tier 6, labeled as the good luck tier, you write. This is no man's land. Many a former top pick represented here, JLC.
Yeah, again, I feel like in the past I've been too willing and able to abet some of this bad quarterbacking by pushing these guys into tier 5. But the reality is, I mean, you guys, look at that list. Do you believe in any of those guys? Do you believe that any of them are headed anywhere? Now, if you want to say Justin Fields, we haven't seen enough of him, I would agree. But just go look at who they're expecting him to play football with this year. It's almost like they're going out of their way to say, oh, we didn't draft this guy, and we're not totally sure about him. So let's throw him in the deep end with no players around him, and then if he sinks, we just move on from him. I mean, their offseason is pretty baffling. You know, Wentz and Goff have made their money. They're clearly on the decline. When you get overdrafted like Daniel Jones and there's no fifth-year option in your future, that's not great. Mitch Trubisky, I've seen that story. You know, it is what it is. Marcus Mariota, will he even be healthy in these things? You know, I'm not trying to sound crass here, but those teams are going nowhere with those quarterbacks, and all will be upgrading within the next, in the case of the Seahawks, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks to certainly in the next 11 months. I think you're going to see massive turnover at that position for those teams.
Level 4 energy, I think is what they call that. It's just, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. So let's move on to tier 6, labeled as the good luck tier, you write. This is no man's land. Many a former top pick represented here, JLC.
Yeah, again, I feel like in the past I've been too willing and able to abet some of this bad quarterbacking by pushing these guys into tier 5. But the reality is, I mean, you guys, look at that list. Do you believe in any of those guys? Do you believe that any of them are headed anywhere? Now, if you want to say Justin Fields, we haven't seen enough of him, I would agree. But just go look at who they're expecting him to play football with this year. It's almost like they're going out of their way to say, oh, we didn't draft this guy, and we're not totally sure about him. So let's throw him in the deep end with no players around him, and then if he sinks, we just move on from him. I mean, their offseason is pretty baffling. You know, Wentz and Goff have made their money. They're clearly on the decline. When you get overdrafted like Daniel Jones and there's no fifth-year option in your future, that's not great. Mitch Trubisky, I've seen that story. You know, it is what it is. Marcus Mariota, will he even be healthy in these things? You know, I'm not trying to sound crass here, but those teams are going nowhere with those quarterbacks, and all will be upgrading within the next, in the case of the Seahawks, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks to certainly in the next 11 months. I think you're going to see massive turnover at that position for those teams.
Level 4 energy, I think is what they call that. It's just, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, we got a minute. The last here is the jury is still out. Almost feels like Justin Fields could be in this list among some of his fellow QBs eventually.
Well, I mean, if they were giving him a fighting chance. But yeah, look, will one of these guys emerge as a true franchise quarterback, a face of the franchise guy, someone who elevates the entire team? I'm not ruling it out, but Trevor Lawrence, that was absolute. I mean, that was horrible what he had to endure last year. And he will get better, and Doug Peterson will be better. But I don't know. Last year will take its toll. San Francisco's got a great offensive creator in Kyle Shanahan. Trey Lance has played so little football at any level the last few years. And let's see about Davis Mills. He was better than I think anyone could have expected last year.
He is senior NFL insider and writer Jason La Canfora. You can read his list and the breakdowns of his top quarterback tiers over on CBSSports.com. Thanks, JLC. And, of course, there'll be discussion about this over on the Pick 6 podcast. Will Brinson and the Super Friends getting into the offseason business now that the draft is over. The latest pod, all about NFL futures and wagers you can make for the upcoming season. Download and follow the Pick 6 pod wherever you get your preferred podcast audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.